President Trump, you're looking at the White House right now, met today with German auto executives from Volkswagen, Daimler, and BMW at the White House that you're looking at there. This comes ahead, of course, of General Motors CEO Mary Barra's visit to Capitol Hill tomorrow. She's going to have an interesting time. The company announced, as you remember, massive layoffs, plant closures in that state. Well, Connell spoke to Ohio Senator Rob Portman earlier today on FBN. This is all about Ohio. He's one of the senators meeting with Barra tomorrow. Listen.
Let's bring in another product that can be made there. Specifically, General Motors, as you know, is talking about making over 20 new electric vehicles just in the next 5 years.
Do you have reason to believe that she might be willing to bend on that, that you might be able to make progress on that front?
We'll see. We'll see. As she's told me, she's very hesitant to raise expectations that can't be met, but she's also said that she will keep an open mind, and that's what I've been counting on.
All right, Morgan and Gary are back with us. I have to correct myself. Markets are closed tomorrow in honor, of course, of George H.W. Bush. National Day of Mourning tomorrow, so apologies to our viewers about that. But, Gary, you know, this is going to be an interesting meeting for Mary Barra with these two Ohio senators. But how much power and sway are they going to have with the CEO who's dealing with lower sedan sales? And if folks don't want to buy a smaller car, they're just not going to do it. What can these senators say to her, do you think?
I hope they have no sway over her. Her job is to do what's right for the company, the shareholders, and even though they're getting rid of some people and the rest of the employees, the world has changed. Everything has changed. Sedans don't sell like they used to. They have to move to something else. Electric cars, they got to move to that more quickly. And bottom line, they have not done a good job, GM, but that's part of it. Some companies do well, some companies don't. They have to deal with reality, and that is unfortunately getting rid of some people, shutting some plants. They're not the first company to do it. They're not the last company to do it. And what I worry about is government telling every business what they do or have to do, and it's wrong.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Mary Barra has to make her ultimate, Morgan, audience is the shareholders of her company. But at the same time, what about some of these German car makers coming in and maybe using some of these idle plants from like a GM or a Ford? I mean, would that be something that you think got maybe pitched today at the White House?
I wouldn't be surprised if they did. I mean, it's important to note that these German auto manufacturers and VW make the majority, almost all of their SUVs that are exported around the world and sold in the United States, in the South, and places like South Carolina. Yeah. And so the German auto companies are already invested in the U.S., so it might be a little bit easier for them to weather some of the tariff storm. But what you're seeing, I think, as it relates to Mary Barra versus these German auto manufacturers, I mean, Mary Barra and GM somehow managed to anger everybody on both sides of the aisle related to this. And I think it's a little bit harder for GM to make the argument that Gary made because they took a government bailout. So you're not talking about an independent, private sector entity. You're talking about someone who was saved by the United States government, and that's why President Trump and Democrats, Republicans alike in the Midwest feel some ownership. I'd say the positive news there is what they said is they're not actually entirely closing these GM plants. It looks like they're shuttering them because of consumer demand, where consumers just don't want to buy sedans right now. So there could be some positive news coming. I just think it was a big screw up for GM in general to announce this right before the holidays in the way they did.
Well, yeah, but at the same time, look, if the economy's good, people want to drive a big old truck or a luxury car or an SUV. That is the American way of life. That is their choice, I don't know. Morgan, Gary, we have to leave it there. Guys, thanks again for being here. Really appreciate it.